You're working hand in hand with the Expo Forum and the CVB, the Convention Bureau in St. Petersburg. So I'm extremely honored to moderate today's session called Building Bridges, Recovery. It is actually the beginning of a webinar series, which will be run and be hosted throughout the year. We'll keep you posted with dates and themes in summer and later on this fall. It's also for me the opportunity to remind you that we will be organizing a study mission in St. Petersburg from the 24th till the 26th of November. So for all those association executives interested in participating, feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to share with you the information on the content of these wonderful educational program. Before I give the floor to my host or to our host, may I give you some housekeeping instructions just to our online audience. Please do not use your camera and make sure that your audio is mute. But obviously we want to have some interactions with you and kindly ask you to use our online chat box to place some comments, to ask questions, and I'll be very delighted to forward them to our speakers later on during the panel discussions. So I would like now to give the floor to Victoria Ivanova from the Convention Bureau for some welcoming words.
Dear colleagues, participants, I'm really glad to see you all here, and today I have an honor to represent St. Petersburg Convention Bureau. I would like to express my gratitude to the main organizers of this meeting, to our partners, EXPOFORUM International and KIT Group, for their kind invitation to participate in this seminar. And it's a great pleasure for us to see such a huge interest to St. Petersburg, the city of white knights, that is also called an open-air museum with an amazing architecture that is included in UNESCO World Heritage List. Our city is a perfect place to host international events on a different scale. And I'm happy to be here and hope that our discussion will bring us a lot of delighted insights and ideas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victoria. I think it's now time for our first keynote speaker. I'm extremely pleased to welcome Martin Boyle, CEO of the IAPCO, International Association for Professional Conference Organizers. So Martin, would you please share with us some of your thoughts on recovery processes, please? I'll give you the floor.
Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be part of your program today. I wish I could be there with you in person, but we are where we are. So I hope this is the next best option. I was delighted to be asked by the team at KIT to provide some of my thoughts with respect to IAPCO on how we're dealing with the recovery out of pandemic and how we're planning our growth strategy moving forward. So if you will bear with me, I think it's important for me to set the scene for those of you that are unfamiliar with IAPCO. IAPCO is the International Association of Professional Congress Organizers. So of course, all of our members are PCOs, and they deliver events around the globe on behalf of their not-for-profit or their government or their corporate clients. Our mission, quite simply, is to raise the standards of service amongst our own members, but also amongst others in the global meetings industry by continuing education and interaction with other professionals around the world. So I think in order for us to best understand IAPCO's recovery is to understand the data first. So if you will bear with me for a second, it'll come as no surprise to any of you that our members reported that in 2020, the number of events, meetings and events for their clients that they delivered were reduced quite dramatically from 2019 rather. In 2019, they informed us that they delivered 21,423 meetings and events around the globe. In 2020, they delivered 13,309. Number dropped substantially. However, it's very important to understand and appreciate that the average number of participants that took part in each of those events actually increased from 317 in 2019 to 478 in 2020. So what does this mean? Quite simply, yes, we are moving from delivering in person, and we had to now deliver in the virtual content, but it opened up a whole new marketplace for more engagement with a larger audience and more people being able to attend those meetings and events online. Interestingly as well, our members also told us that their headcount, their resource had increased from 2019 to 2020, up from 9,700 to 10,273. And this predominantly was because they needed the skills and the expertise to come from probably outside of their existing infrastructure and resource. More expertise from digital communications experts, more expertise from digital delivery through platforms, and more expertise from understanding the digital sphere and the digital communications. In order for us to understand the recovery of an association like IAPCO, it's important to understand the existing business models and the risks that come with them. Some associations out there have revenue that comes from a number of different areas. Membership, commercial partnerships, some education, their annual congress or meeting, some have grants, bursaries, some have some investment portfolios, and others miscellaneous, depending on their structure and their setup. Many, however, have a large proportion of their income and their revenue that comes from their annual congress. This, of course, has been negatively impacted last year, and potentially it is continuing to be negatively impacted this year, quite simply because people are not attending in person. They may be attending virtually, but not attending in person to their annual congress. If I look at IAPCO specifically, for us, over the last 2.5 years, it's about being able to mitigate our financial risk. IAPCO has three main sources of income, I would suggest: our membership, our commercial partnerships, and our education. In 2019, our membership and commercial partnerships took up majority of our revenue, majority of our income. In fact, 96%. What we have focused our time and energy on over the last year and a half under my leadership is diversifying that portfolio slightly, is mitigating that risk to reliance on just two, but now three. We now have education making up almost 20% of our revenue stream. Membership and commercial partnerships almost equal. Our actual income has remained somewhat consistent. However, we've diversified that and we've mitigated our risk. So if we first look at membership, and for us in 2020 and still through 2021, membership retention is a core objective of ours. How do we do this? We have to be clear and concise in the message to all of our members about the value of their IAPCO membership. What is that value proposition to them? What is the value proposition to their teams? We also need to support our members. Support our members through different initiatives. We need to advocate for the safe reopening of our industry on behalf of our members. We're continuing to provide education, upskilling and training so that they're ready and able and capable of delivering these new formats that we're seeing in the marketplace, and that we're leading that education, and that our members are leading that communication and that education to the associations and guiding strategically the associations as to how they can shift their own products and services to meet the new needs in this virtual space. And in 2020 and still through 2021, we're providing a platform for exchanging of ideas between our members. It's important that the PCOs can discuss amongst themselves in a safe environment successes and challenges so that they can speak to their clients about the best option for them moving forward. In focusing all of this and our attention and our core objective in the last 12 to 14 months on these 4 key areas, I'm delighted to say that we've been able to retain 97% of our membership at IAPCO. A remarkable feat given what some of our colleagues around the globe are experiencing with respect to membership declines. If I think about recovery to growth now through our strategic partnerships, our commercial partnerships, we have commercial partnership arrangements with convention bureaus, convention centers, and service providers all over the globe. In 2020, our initial engagement opportunity with commercial partners and our members quite realistically could not take place because we were not able to get together in person. So we had to rethink, we had to reshape, we had to reinvent those commercial partnership arrangements. We needed to come up with new opportunities for our commercial partners to engage with our members and our members to engage with commercial partners to ensure that we retained those very important commercial partners to IAPCO. If we think about recovery to growth through our training and what we call our education, our EDGE seminar series, we had to shift. Like many other organizations around the globe, we had to transition very quickly to providing education in a virtual space. We needed to create content. We couldn't rely on delivering EDGE seminars in person around the globe. We needed to transition quickly. Quite interestingly, and I guess quite luckily for us and fortunate for us, is that at the beginning of 2020, we were planning already a relaunch of our online educational platform called WebEdge. We relaunched that in May of 2020 when the pandemic was in full flux. We were able, through WebEdge and our communication to our members and our communication to the entire events community, to suddenly increase user connectivity by about 700 users onto WebEdge. These are 700 new points of entry of people learning educational content through IAPCO. For us to engage with these 700 people, and for those 700 people to understand IAPCO as an association and the benefits that IAPCO could bring to them as a meeting professional, and the opportunity that it presents for us to talk to those potential new members and engage with them on a potential new membership drive. It's been a remarkable result for us as an association. We are driving new content through WebEdge weekly. And of course, that has to be as agile as possible. As the needs and requirements of our members and their clients request new content specific to what needs to be delivered for them, we need to adjust and we need to provide that education and that expertise to help them do so. So if I look at some of our results of that sort of recovery to growth through training and the education, if we just look at the number of touch points, the number of attendees that we achieved in 2019 at just over 1,000, and we look at where we are just at the end of last year, 2020, 3,000 plus. We have trebled the connectivity with attendees to our IAPCO education programs. Remarkable result. From 74 different countries and 6 different continents. We could not have done this physically if we were just delivering our usual physical in-person EDGE seminars. This virtual content for us has opened up a new opportunity and new marketplace. What has it meant for us with our own annual meeting or our Congress? Our annual meeting and General Assembly is the must-attend event of our calendar for all of our members. They love getting together at our annual meeting. It's a wonderful event, and we take it globally. It happens in February every year, and the last time was in Vancouver in February of last year. Of course, in February of 2021, we couldn't meet in person. We decided to reimagine, to reinvent, to recreate our IAPCO general meeting and change it to IAPCO Day and GA. We reduced the size of the program. We created new engagement opportunities and initiatives with members in the virtual platform that we were using. We created engagement opportunities for our commercial partners to get involved in the program. And we brought in some keynote speakers thinking about high-level global topics. We achieved the greatest number of attendees to our IAPCO Day and GA than we have to any previous IAPCO annual meeting and General Assembly. Quite reasonable to assume it's because they didn't have to travel to get to the annual meeting. They were able to tune in, they were able to interact, they were able to take part, and they were able to participate from their own desk or from their mobile device. We are all desperate to get back to the in-person, face-to-face meeting. What this has proven to us as an association is that the content is king to engage with our community. We will still get back together. And in fact, in 2022, we will be meeting in person in Rome. However, we will also be providing virtual content to our members that cannot join us for whatever reason. It's a great opportunity for us to continue to educate, continue to network, and continue to provide those connection points and the facilitated interaction between our commercial partners and our members. So this new and expected event delivery format, the hybrid format, it's here to stay. Our clients are telling our members are telling us, and we are experiencing it ourselves as an association. We have to be able to deliver both in person and online at the same time. The business models are being worked on. Our members are delivering very unique business models for their clients, but it's very important for us all to understand and appreciate and adopt this new virtual hybrid technology and delivery platform. In the short to medium term, what's really, really important is quite clearly the safe practices, safe protocols that are in place. It's partnering with the destinations, it's partnering with all of the venues, the PCOs on top of managing all of that. It's communicating the safe practices and procedures and the guidelines that are in place for any attendee, any member of any association that's attending in person, and then linking to the virtual content at the same time. It's a bit of a whirlwind tour of what I've just discussed with you. These are my thoughts and my experiences at APCO as the Chief Executive Officer here. And we have struggled like many associations out there. But through this diversification of our business model, through mitigating that risk, through a focus on the value proposition to our members, through a focus on ensuring that we continued our education programs and in fact increase the number of education programs we can deliver, and making sure that we ensured our commercial partners remained engaged with our members and our members appreciated the value that the commercial partners are bringing to them. And we have, I'm delighted to say, experienced a strong recovery period. There's still a long way to go, but as an international association, it's been important for us to focus on those key elements. It's been important for us to continue to advocate and be part of the conversation. And for you inviting me today to be part of this conversation can only help, I hope, for our industry as a whole to understand and to help and to work together and to collaborate together, to share that communication and to advocate to our policymakers for the safe reopening of our events industry around the world. So thank you again for your time. I hope you've learned a little, and it's been a real pleasure to be part of the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Excellent, Martin. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. And I do hope to have some questions from the audience later on. I'll be happy to discuss with you further what you have shared with us so far. So without further ado, I would like now to introduce our second keynote speaker. His name is Luca Costa, CEO at the International Institute of Welding. Luca, we look very much forward to hearing about your society or your annual assembly and the challenges you've been facing. So I'll give you the floor.
I'm the CEO of the International Institute of Welding, an association which is based in Genoa, Italy. I'm going to give you some information on how we are recovering from the pandemic. First of all, a few words about our organization. In 1948, it was founded by members in 13 countries with the scope to promote the development of welding by all processes and to allow the exchange of knowledge. As you can see from the picture, since the beginning, we had annual gatherings as a base of our working activities. Nowadays, we operate with 22 working groups. We call them groups and commission, which meet twice a year. Every year, our main event is the IIW Annual Assembly, which is hosting in general 800 experts and delegates from all continents of the world. We operate also through our IIW community website with more than 5,000 registered users and with over 220,000 documents available to our members. What we develop are standards, as we are an organization recognized by ISO, deliverables such as journal, book, and softwares. We have our meetings and gatherings, so not only the IIW Annual Assembly, but also other international and regional events. And we develop a scheme for qualification and certification of personnel and companies, which is operated by our global network of members. Focusing more on our gatherings, as I mentioned earlier, our main event is the IIW Annual Assembly. It lasts for one full week from Saturday until Friday, and we have our General Assembly and then 4 days of meetings of our working groups. This is generally from Saturday until Wednesday. We have 2 days of international conference, which is open to everyone. We have 4 social events like dinners, and we had in our history from 500 to 1,000 participants, and that is mostly depending on the location where the assembly is held. Our IIW Annual Assembly is hosted by one of our member organizations. Other than that, we have the IIW International and Regional Congresses, which are smaller events with an average of participation around 100. A new concept we are developing since a few years is the IIW Peak, which is focused on young professionals, meaning those in age under 35. And then we have the IIW intermediate meetings of our commissions and groups, and these are very small events lasting for 1 or 2 days with an average of 30 to 40 participants. So this is how a standard year generally works at the IIW. So we have the IIW Annual Assembly, we have the intermediate meetings, and some of the other events. But like any other organization, last year we had to deal with the shock of the pandemic. So what was the effect on our community? So we had planned a set of events, but unfortunately we had to stop after February 2020, when the IIW had its last regional congress in Mumbai, India, and that was also my last international travel. After that, we were coping with the situation, and in March, our board of directors decided to cancel the IIW Annual Assembly as a face-to-face event, which was initially planned to be held in Singapore, hosted by our local member. Soon after that, we decided to hold the IAW Annual Assembly online. And then we had a very limited amount of time to manage it because we wanted to keep the initial planned date for the 73rd IAW Annual Assembly. So in a few months, we were capable of organizing the 73rd IAW Annual Assembly, but the first IAW Online Annual Assembly. And it was a success, and I will show you some figures very soon. Having a look at the year, all other events were cancelled. And also in the November of 2020, we decided to cancel the 74th IAW Annual Assembly face-to-face, which was initially planned in Genoa. And immediately after that, we started managing the specifications to run it online. But that's the next part of my story and will come afterwards. So again, I'm focusing on the 73rd IAW Annual Assembly. So what we did, we went through a professional congress organizer and we organized it on a virtual conference center. All the meetings were held in rooms like this, so nothing different than what you are seeing every online meetings. We had some of those online which were held in a webinar format and some others which were completely live, so without any streaming tool. And the reaction from the groups were different, specifically those who were in the webinar format with the streaming tool. They were not fully satisfied with the interaction amongst participants. However, here are some figures. So we had 700 participants, so we are in average with our standard participation, and that was the main success, as well as having 39 countries represented. We had 50 sessions of different units, plus the General Assembly. So we had 150 hours of meetings of our groups and commissions in 48 sessions. And we had more than 240 documents, presentations delivered at the Annual Assembly. So even if it was a success, we had to manage the situation in a little bit of a hurry. So there was no time to define any social event, and there was no chance to have and to manage the international conference. However, as I said before, and I'm repeating that, it was a great success. So now, how are we coping from the pandemic in 2021? What is happening with the IAW events and the 74th IAW Annual Assembly? So in terms of other events, we have already held 2 international congresses, one in Poland and one in Romania. They were held in the hybrid mode. Therefore, there was a group of participants which was locally in a room in Romania and Poland, and the rest of the participants, and including some speakers, were home or at their own offices, far ahead, meeting online. And they were quite successful, with an average participation around 100 participants. So again, in line with our habits. We also had some of our intermediate meetings, so those small meetings I was mentioned earlier, but not all of them, because not all the groups were agreeing on the concept on meeting online, because they wanted real face-to-face interaction. But coming to the main thing, the 74th Annual Assembly was planned in due time. So, as I mentioned earlier, we started with writing of the specification in November last year. And immediately after that, we started the bid, we opened a bid, and we assigned the bid in January 2021. So we are planning to have a full program, because we learned from the lesson from the last year. Participants were looking for a full program. So we are going to have the international conference, we are going to have social events, and we are also going to have some entertainment for all participants. Again, here I'm talking about lessons learned, and based on what we learned last year, we will have no streaming sessions. That means that everything will be held with online real-time interaction. Just to let you have a bit of a look on how the schedule of the assembly is going to work. We had to expand the duration from 1 week up to 2 weeks. So we are going to start on the 7th of July and we are going to end on the 21st of July. And that's because we need to manage the different time zones of the participants. So we have focused on meeting from 13 to 16 Central European summertime because these are the 3 hours which better fit with the time zones from those participants from the west coast of the United States, being for them early morning, to Japan, being for them late evening. So that's almost the end of my presentation. What is the experience we learned? What is the new way forward as the pandemic will be gone? So before of the pandemic, we had 2 different streams of thoughts. One stream was online is not a feasible approach because no physical contact, no interaction will kill our organization. The other stream of thought was online is our future. And in 10 years, we will probably have to cancel all our face-to-face events because online meetings is much cheaper, is more efficient, and so on. As it happens in several times, the truth and the reality is always in the middle. So our strategy for the next year is blending face-to-face and online. However, keeping the IW1L assembly, because every organization like ours, we believe, need the opportunity for our members and our participants to talk, to interact, to exchange not only moments of work, but also moments of pleasure. So we believe this is our future. So I hope that these few thoughts will be of help for any organization, and I look forward for like anyone else, for a real face-to-face meeting, and I wish you all the best for your future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Luca. We really cross our fingers and wish you lots of success for your upcoming assembly in July. Now it's time for the third and last keynote speaker, Victoria Ivanova, Head of the International Cooperation Department at the Convention Bureau, St. Petersburg. Victoria, thank you for joining us and for sharing some ideas with us in terms of recovery processes in St. Petersburg. Thank you.
Introduction. St. Petersburg Convention Bureau is a governmental agency that was established in 2014 under the auspices of the Committee for Tourism Development of St. Petersburg and was the first convention bureau in Russia. Our mission is to promote St. Petersburg as a leading business platform while bringing international events to the city and facilitating fruitful cooperation between MICE industry, professional associations, and governmental bodies. Now I would like to show you a quick presentation. As a convention bureau, we provide 3 forms of support: institutional, peer, and legal. It deserves to be mentioned that in 2019, St. Petersburg introduced electronic visas, allowing to make a simplified online application for a single entry visa for up to 8 days long stay. Since the initiative proved to be successful, there was made a decision to expand it on a federal level in 2021. By now, the emission of e-visas is temporarily frozen due to pandemic restriction. We provide all the necessary assistance to make harmonization of documents and visa application as easy as possible. When the pandemic came along, nobody expected to see cities locked down longer than a few weeks or people told to stay home for months. Operating for almost 7 years, we have faced such a serious global crisis for the first time. Many long-expected business events were postponed or cancelled. Telltale example is World Chef Congress and Expo 2020, which was moved to 2026. Some events were held online, like the International Conference on Speech and Computer Speaking. In general, MICE industry sustained solid losses because of closed boundaries and travel restrictions. According to the research made by Russian government authorities, by summer 2020, which was an apogee of pandemic restrictions, about 40% of MICE industry companies lost from 10,000 to 100,000 euros earnings, while business tourism activities fell by 80%. Overall financial damage of professional conference and exhibition organizers in Russia is more than 550 million euros. However, despite the coronavirus outbreak, St. Petersburg did not become a less popular tourist destination and managed to consolidate its positions as an influential tourist market player and a leading tourist attraction throughout 2020. To prove a point, St. Petersburg was granted a title of world's leading cultural destination by prestigious global tourism influencer World Travel Awards. In 2020, the city started to expand its support of the tourism market and launched several initiative projects to help the sector reopen tourism-related businesses and manage their recovery in a way that is safe, attractive for tourists, and economically viable. The total amount of financial support provided by the city government equals to 4 billion rubles, that's approximately 46 million euros. That demonstrates the importance of tourism and the potential it has in helping the economy in the post-pandemic times. Additionally, St. Petersburg became the first city in Russia to join Safe Travels, the World Travel and Tourism Council program for safe tourism. As part of this initiative, key players of the city tourism industry receive a special Safe Travels St. Petersburg sign as a recognition of health and hygiene protocols implemented by these organizations and allied with World Travel and Tourism Council Global Safe Travels protocols. For tourists, this sign is a guarantee that the services provided by the city tourism organizations meet the necessary sanitary and safety standards. To join the standard, you are required to implement a set of rules and regulations. By now, there are about 500 hotels and 70 convention venues and professional event organizers certified with Safe Travels QR code. Despite the pandemic restrictions spreading on event hosting, St. Petersburg Convention Bureau and other organizers conduct business events due to special agreement order prescribed by the government of St. Petersburg and Safe Travel Standard. Today, it is possible to undertake the event with a capacity lower than 75 delegates without any official permission. If the amount of participants is bigger, the organizer needs to submit special requests to the government. Currently, the city is getting the coronavirus outbreak under control, and hospitality industry is slowly getting back onto its feet. With that, major events gradually begin to start up again in June and July. The 24th St. Petersburg International Economical Forum, the UEFA Euro Cup matches, the Global Space Exploration Conference GLEX. Simultaneously, the domestic tourism market has increased. Russia is a huge country full of amazing places and great opportunities. The pandemic has once again reminded us of this, giving a possibility to explore and promote our homeland. Finally, I would like to say a couple of words about the Bureau's special projects that also have helped to revive the industry and overcome negative effects of the pandemic. The first one is the St. Petersburg Ambassador Program, which consists of a set of tools and services created in order to help cities' leading experts to attract international business events in St. Petersburg. Ambassadors are representatives of scientific and professional communities who enjoy high authority in their field and are eager to turn their city into a global knowledge and tourism hub. When creating the pilot version of the program in the end of 2018, our team relied on international experience and practice. According to statistics of the International Congress and Convention Association, more than 70% of international events are attracted with an active participation of ambassadors. In time, thanks to this program, St. Petersburg won its right to host 30 major international events with more than 18,000 delegates expected. During the pandemic, ambassadors actively led the international activities in virtual format that helped to attract to St. Petersburg such major events as International Geological Congress in 2028 or European Congress of Lymphology 2024. Another direction of work is connected with sustainable development. Although international movement to make MICE more green and responsible is a long-lasting trend, COVID made the need for action even more urgent. Our sustainability story began in 2018, when St. Petersburg became the first city in Russia which joined the Global Destination Sustainability Movement, a community of cities created with an idea of a greener business tourism. Over the past 3 years, we have made some important steps to make St. Petersburg an eco-friendly business destination, such as developing a sustainability strategy, holding workshops for the city's tourism industry, extending a pool of green partners, and promoting the new environmental standard for hotels of the Vitality Leaf, the only Russian eco-label recognized at the international level. Furthermore, we have launched an advising authority in the area of business tourism ecology, Sustainability Council, to unite stakeholders of MICE industry. In 2020, our efforts were rewarded by a sensible rise in GDS ranking. For instance, in the DMO block, the Bureau has improved more than twice and amounted to 53% compared to the starting point of 26% in 2018. In conclusion, I would like to stress that we could make a lot of difference joining our forces for the sake of thriving and dynamically developing event industry. Feeling itself an integral part of the global tourism community, our team is open for dialogue and ready to share its own suggestions and ideas. I also want to assure you that even in these challenging times, it's possible to host an international events in St. Petersburg on the high level. We will be really glad to welcome you in St. Petersburg. Do not hesitate to ask me if you have any questions or comments to my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. I think with your energy, we look forward to staging events in St. Petersburg. We are really confident that we will be able to move on very, very shortly. So thank you very much for your speech, and I hope to be sharing more information with the online audience later on during our panel discussion. We would like now to have a very short break in order to show you a very exciting video, and then I'll be happy to have a panel discussion with the three speakers we just had, Martin and Luca and Victoria. So we'll have a round table, hopefully with lots of questions and lots of interactions. So talk to you soon again.
Just see this amazing convention center here. This is absolutely architectural. It's a highlight, it's a milestone, and it's absolutely perfect.
My first impression here with the EXPOFORUM, it's a huge venue that obviously can hold very different kinds of meetings. Looks very promising, and it's very close to the airport.
I love it. It's absolutely amazing. I'm really, really impressed with it from what I've seen so far, yeah.
The convention center, I also see it very convenient because it's flat and very easy to know where you are.
The building is new, all the electronics, IT.
The Russian scientists, they have to connect themselves with the European associations or with the worldwide association and just say, okay, we are from Russia and we want also to have the next conventions, maybe if it is in 5 years, having in St. Petersburg or in Moscow or wherever. The Russian scientists have to play a more active role within the society.
So I can fit my executive committee in, I can put my council into it. So everything is in one place, so it's a one-stop shop in a way, which is very nice.
A very beautiful city, I must say, a lot of cultural points and points of interest to see. First of all, I must say I'm very honored to be part of this program, being in a very distinguished group. So far I can only say good things. The information prior to arriving was very clear.
I'm actually thrilled to be here. Thank you again for being here.
I find it very easy, very similar when you get US ESTA or your Canadian ESTA to even more, I would say faster. And I received the confirmation within 28 hours, I would say. So it was very, very fast.
Colleagues are very thrilled about the possibility to organize a convention here, and we have actually two associations who are quite interested in doing the next convention, the next rotating conference here in St. Petersburg. Yeah.
We are now back for a wonderful panel discussion. As I was mentioning earlier on, the idea is to have a roundtable with Martin Boyle, with Luca, with Victoria, to be able to discuss the content of our previous presentations, some comments, some thoughts, and we look forward to hearing from the audience whether there are any questions I should place to one of our speakers. I have one already, which is directed to Martin. I will read the question. Countries are finally opening for conferences and events. This is a recovery form for the pandemic, but what are the legal consequences to associations in respect of COVID infections during a face-to-face event? Is it covered by the conference venue or a PCO, or any specific insurance is needed? Martin, I'll give you the floor.
Well, thank you, Jocelyn. That's not an easy question to answer as the first question of the session today. Look, what's really fascinating to us is when COVID started to impact, and you know, at the beginning of last year, we started and we launched a new initiative called our Coronavirus Impact Dialogues. And this was an online webinar discussion similar to what we're having with our members, because there were so many questions about what are the legal obligations and insurance policies, and everyone was talking in those days of the cancellation policies with venues because everyone was stopping having their in-person meetings. And we actually brought in an insurance provider to have conversation with our members about just this. One of the challenges, of course, is that, you know, there's not one size that fits all. There's not one simple solution for anyone. And it's very, in fact, it's probably impossible to get a COVID-related insurance policy nowadays. In fact, I would probably bet my house on the fact that you won't be able to get one. And so I think that what we're hearing from industry as a whole, and that is the whole infrastructure of the meetings environment and all the stakeholders therein, it's not so much just about the PCO or just about the association. It's really about collaborating together from a city and a destination perspective to the venue, to the transportation companies, to make sure that those procedures are in place and there's safe practice guidelines that everyone understands, so that, back to what I was saying in my presentation about mitigating risk, so that you're actually trying collectively to mitigate any risk that's there. You know, the risk of infection, we're all being vaccinated now across the globe, some faster than others. But even with the vaccination, in all honesty, as we know, it's, you know, 85 or 90% of efficacy just now. So there is still a risk of potential spread. But if we work together collaboratively to reduce that risk, then that mitigates any chances of that happening, or at least reduces any chances of that happening. So I would suggest, and from what I'm hearing in the industry and from our members, that open conversation and that dialogue is very, very important to have up front with everyone.
And thank you, Martin. Maybe Victoria, you want to add something to that as a destination, whether you've discussed the issue already during the last weeks like you were discussing, explaining us about the program you have in place? Is that part of your considerations to talk about all insurance issues? You need to unmute.
Yes, thank you, Jocelyn, for your question. As I already mentioned recently, in June and July, we are going to host the international events, and one of the most important and global event for us, like for destination and for our convention bureau and the Committee for Tourism Development, is the International Space Conference GLEX. The main venue is located in the city center, and actually the main point was for us to understand how to force all the participants, I mean all the delegates who are going to attend the event, and we are thinking there are going to be around 700 delegates on one place, how to make them feel comfortable and how to make them feel free and safe. That's why we are going to organize the special room inside the venue, where the federal agency that is working with clinics that are making vaccines and that are taking tests for getting the coronavirus positive or negative results. They are going to place these companies on the venue, so delegates will be able to get their results before they are going to leave our country. And obviously we are really need to get the results beforehand that they are coming to our venue, to our city. That's why we are helping the delegates to understand that they are located in the safe atmosphere and situation.
Yeah.
And the same situation is going to be on International Economical Forum that is going to be held in the EXPOFORUM. So we are practicing, and hopefully we will manage to share with you our results, how it happened after the events passed.
Thanks, great, thanks for these comments. We have another question to Luca now. So Luca, we hear that we heard that you had a very successful recovery process at a very, very short notice in 2020, but you managed to reach the number of attendees, what you usually would have as an average. Now that you have all these lessons learned and you have more time to plan, what is your target this year in terms of online attendees? And do you think, I mean, I was wondering whether you have like a new strategy in terms of dedicated marketing for a particular region, for instance. Any thoughts about that?
Thank you very much for the question. So what we learned from the last year is that we have a real community of, I would say, addicted participants that would join us whatever we are going to do. And that's probably a very good news, not only for us, but also for any organizer which is managing the event with us. What we have been doing so far was trying to improve our event, because last year it was managed in a hurry, and this year we can have much more content. For example, we are planning social meetings and things like that. So we are trying to improve participation by adding content, not only technical content, but also meeting opportunities. And we are focusing on some countries. One of those, for example, is India, which has a huge research ongoing in our fields of activities, but nevertheless, they have always been to some extent limited by the limited purchasing power of the country, and hoping that they will benefit from not having to travel. So limited cost in participation, which is one of the major advantages in an online environment.
Need to unmute myself, Luca. So I was saying that it sounded like a good plan. So that's it's always very difficult, I guess, also for you to plan next year when you go back, like you were saying at the end of your presentation, that you hope and your target next year would be to run a hybrid conference. What do you have a recipe in mind, or how would be the split between on-site and online attendees? Do you have something in terms of planning already?
Thank you again.
Already thinking after July 2021.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for the question. So we are realizing that in our scheme, the hybrid model may not be 100% effective. As I was mentioning in my presentation, we have almost 1 week very packed with events, and that happens when we meet face-to-face from 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So blending online and face-to-face participation during that occasion would be very difficult because of the different time zones of the world. So our recipe is going hybrid for our regional gatherings, because the time zones is not a constraint in that case. And we have been doing a couple of hybrid events already, but we are not going to change our structure for our major events. So we are all looking forward for the possibility of having big attendances at our annual assemblies with a pure face-to-face format. So we are blending, in essence, by having regional events in hybrid mode and global events in face-to-face mode.
Thanks, Luca. Thank you so much. I think I have one question for Martin now. Okay, recovery has two meanings: return to health, so meaning back on track, and the second one would be process of getting better. That's really the English language to make it really difficult. So meaning optimizing your structure. So during your presentation, you did mention that you managed to keep 97% of your members, which is fantastic. It's really a huge number of retention. So it means that you have managed to stabilize your community, if I may say. But if I compare it to your 5-year strategic plan, how long do you think you will need to compensate for these difficult COVID year?
Yeah, another great question. Thanks, Jocelyn. Look, I think what's really interesting for us is we were able to retain majority of our members, as you say, 97%. But at the same time, because we weren't delivering our education face-to-face, traveling the world, attending some of the big trade shows that we attend and support and provide education at, in fact, some of our expenditure decreased as well. As a result, what that then meant for our members, our current members who are with us, is that our reserves increased beyond what we would normally like as a not-for-profit association to have as reserves. So we were able to actually provide added value now and a return back to our members in the case of a slightly reduced membership fee for 2021 for them. So that was a bit of a strategic move from our council, which is our board, and from my leadership as CEO. Now, what does that mean moving forward? We need to get back on track, absolutely. We need to, what we've done over the last, I guess, 12 to 14 months, as I said in my presentation, is we've actually increased the number of educational touch points, if you will, or educational content deliverables this past 12 to 14 months than we ever had before on an annual basis. So do we need to continue that? Yes, because that is what we're finding from our members and our community as very important to them. What does that mean financially, and to get us back onto that 5-year strategic plan and the target year in and year out for that? is we have a very low, I guess you can call it, a growth plan with respect to number of new members into IAPCO. In order for a member to become a member of IAPCO, they have to prove that they deliver very high quality services time and time again. And so we audit all of our members, and they have to go through a strict application process in order to become an accredited IAPCO member. So our growth strategy is not about numbers. Our growth strategy is about making sure that we get the right type of member to join IAPCO from specific regions around the world that are key to us helping to develop and deliver those key markets. So Asia Pacific, Latin America, we see a real need for education for PCOs to be developed more in those regions. So we have a strategic plan in the next 4 to 5 years of trying to increase our education that we deliver in these regions, but also in doing so, the long-term benefit of that is we're providing potential access to new members to join IAPCO, and those that can prove that they can deliver that quality service. So for us, it's not so much about getting back on track. It's maybe more about us continuing with what we're doing. And, you know, so many people last year were talking about, you know, pivoting and being agile. And I think as an association, we've had to do so, and we've had to be agile. And so our 5-year plan continues to be agile as we continue to develop specifically in those markets. But there's not too much we need to change, I don't think. We're having to just adjust ever so slightly, I think. Does that answer your question?
Perfectly, I would say.
Yeah.
And that takes me to a wonderful, important point. You were talking about finance, and that was also one question actually to Luca, because he was saying earlier on that he was very successful in having the very same number of participants throughout years, even though pandemic here and there. But I do assume that it has an influence and an impact, a financial impact on the revenue stream. It's, I guess, not that easy to sell, if I may say, an online registration compared to an on-site registration, especially in your field of expertise. So what is your recovery plan from a financial point of view, Luca?
Sorry, my mic was muted. So that's not an easy question. So definitely our first financial problem when the COVID started is based on the fact that I would say 20% or 20 to 30% of our incomes, our yearly incomes, are coming from the organization of our international conference and annual assembly. So that was the financial aspect which drove us to the decision to run an online event. And as that happened, we immediately realized that we could not manage to have an online annual assembly which the members of our community could join free of charge. And that was supported by the fact that you cannot manage everything on your own. I mean, you need someone who is professional in doing that. So once more, our board had to realize that we needed the support of the PCO to run an online event. After that, we started discussing about the participation fee and balancing what we could offer with what we could ask. And we came to a participation fee which we believed was reasonable in respect of the content that we were offering. And it was, just to give you an idea, it was about I would say 20% of the cost of face-to-face event. Then we focused on a minimum amount of participation to make it successful, to at least to pay the PCO and the cost, and then we were lucky with our participants. So having has almost as many participants as we were used to, we were capable of getting some revenues out of it. So it was not the same level of revenues as we had with a face-to-face assembly, but on the same year as it happened for any other association, including also IAPCO, we managed to save a lot of money from travels. So balancing what we got with what we saved, we were capable of closing the year with a positive result for our organization, which was again an excellent result considering what the world is considering, or what is happening around the world these days. So closing on balance or making some profit is an excellent result these days. So the recipe was managing the risk. Like for everything else, we managed the risk, and we developed a business plan. We were duly supported by a PCO, which again is essential. And we had to destroy the barrier where some people thought that an online event is free of charge, which is not the case. So that's it.
Thank you for sharing this information. It sounds good indeed to understand that you made it happen, financially happen. On top of that, that is really good news. And that was my question actually to Victoria and Martin. Since at IAPCO, the members are all companies actually, and Victoria was saying earlier on that PCOs had huge losses last year in St. Petersburg. So I was wondering actually whether there was any survey between IAPCO members to learn about how they could recover. Have they recovered? What's their situation at the moment as an IAPCO member? And there are so many means and ways to get support. It's very interesting to see at national and global levels how the support could be generated in terms of subsidies, and some are doing some short time work. So there are different approaches, right? But I wonder whether there is an umbrella at IAPCO. Do you have any, again, recipe for us, Martin, to tell us how to recover the best way ever?
I think what's fascinating is we survey our members at the end of every year. And in fact, last year we surveyed them halfway through the year and then at the end of the year to see what the difference was with respect to the impact of COVID on their businesses and on their clients' events and meetings. 74% of our members actually told us at the end of the year that they had applied for some sort of government support to help their organization continue to practice and be sustainable for the long term. And that government support, Jocelyn, came from whether there was some tax benefits that were in place, whether it was to support their staff payroll, whether there were some loans that they could have guaranteed loans from the government. But what was interesting was there were so many that did tap into some of those measures that the governments put in place for them. Every country was different, and every country, the accessibility for organizations like PCOs to tap into some of that resource was different across the globe, as you can imagine. But I think what was really interesting for me, if I take a step back and I look at the response that government has had to the meetings and events industry as a whole, as opposed to just SMEs or small medium enterprises or large corporations, I think our industry was underrepresented, in all honesty. And I think one of the things that we missed, an opportunity, and we thought previous to COVID, we had very strong relationships with policymakers, government entities, because of the strong relationship we had with the likes of convention bureaus and the decision makers at a national level as well in different countries. But when we take a step back and we look at actually what happened in countries around the globe, it wasn't specific to the meetings and events sector that countries and governments supported that industry. It was more generally across the whole employment or corporate sphere that the governments around the world were supporting. And probably large manufacturing or legal or accounting, these were the sorts of industries, if you will, that potentially had much more direct connectivity with policymakers. And so what we're doing at IAPCO, we actually pulled together a group, a task force of 11 national associations of all PCOs. So 11 national PCO associations, we got together for the first time in our 52-year history. And really the premise behind that was not that there's a commercial element to it or a membership element to it or any formal structure, but it was that we were able to share, discuss, advocate, and help each other to advocate for that conversation at that national level with a national association, to have that conversation with their government, to try to ensure that our industry is better represented at government policy level. So this coming together of these national bodies under the guise, if you will, of IAPCO has been remarkable. And it's been a remarkable collaboration from Australia, New Zealand, to Uruguay, to Mexico, to Greece, to Italy. All of these national bodies coming together and having a conversation every 6 weeks to 8 weeks together. And we're trying now to get ministers together in a forum similar to this, where we'll have the ministers of tourism, etc., sitting around the table, talking about the importance and hearing from our industry of the importance of our industry. So to answer your question in a long roundabout way, yes, there was government support available. Yes, our PCOs tapped into it as much as they could, but I think it was more because they were a respective entity within their country and a respective operator in their country, as opposed to being specific to PCOs or specific to the meetings and events sector. I would like to see that connectivity increase moving forward.
Thanks, Martin. We have all the information now. And I wonder whether Victoria wanted to add something at destination level.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to add something to my previous presentation. As I already mentioned, tourism sector is really important for our country and for our government. So as I told recently, a government supported the tourism industry with approximately amount of 46 million euros. That is really a great support. And actually, I also wanted to mention that in our city, in St. Petersburg, there was implemented the consulting council that is implemented by the governor of St. Petersburg, and which includes different sectors of our industry. I'm not talking only about the MICE industry, I'm talking about also hotel industry that is really necessary, because hotel industry is really was in really difficult conditions during the pandemic. Restaurants, transport, and obviously MICE. And during these meetings, we are also discussing how we can help different sectors, and obviously governor helps to promote and develop our sectors on a great way. And if I'm talking about Convention Bureau, we are also supporting our associations that are located in St. Petersburg that are intended to hold the international events. Would it be in offline format or online format? We're supporting them with the institutional support, with PR, and obviously with financial, because we totally understand how it's important to develop event industry here during the pandemic times.
Can I just congratulate you and your bureau and your government, Victoria? Well done. I think that's very important to hear, that there is support there. And that the support is understood from, even if it's in the short term and the long term. So that's a wonderful case study of what others could maybe do. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear.
Actually a wonderful opportunity to wrap up actually our session. No? And for that, I wanted to mention a quote we just received over the weekend from a client with whom we just organized a virtual conference, and I like very much the sentence he used. That's why I'm going to read the quote. He wrote, "It's been a long flight these last 2 years, with plenty of turbulence on the way. But we seem to have landed safely. Without your help, we would have been airsick. And I thought it's really perfect to the theme recovery. So he made it, he recovered from the airsick problems he had. When I hear you three keynote speakers with your energy, and I really feel that we are ready to move on to the next level. So that give us really confidence, the way you presented and you showed the recovery program you had in place. So I really want to thank you very much for your participation, for joining and sharing with us your insights. And I think it's also time for us to thank the team behind the scene. They've been working very hard on putting together these programs, so EXPOFORUM and KIT Group. So thanks to you guys for all the technical matters behind. And I understand we are supposed to take a group picture now of all the speakers. So we are ready for that, dear team. Let's do it. Guess it's done, taken care of. So that's for the future. So let me again remind you that we will have another webinar sometime in summer, in July, if I remember well, with the next theme. So we'll be happy to hear again from you guys. And thanks again. Have a nice afternoon, or wherever you are, a nice evening, good morning, and we'll be in touch again. So thanks. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.